a situation when
Hmm.
the husband was there with the wife and the boat was capsizing and
Yeah, yeah.
so the question is like in situation like so this is one of the I like Indian mindset is about like becoming oh upar wala karega sab kuch. I mean so my action will not mean anything. I mean so what becomes too fatalistic and that's why sort of we became slaves for all these years because well, it's God's will, let it be. So instead of fighting back or saying that this is what my 50,000 Britishers rule the country, and nobody has one person has guts to go and fight back. "Ah, upar wala karna hai," like we'll just it's our fate, our misery. So where does that decision making in terms of if he has a life raft or life raft, I mean he should be looking for it and trying to say, well, instead of like God's going to take care of it. But it's become my job to become find a life vest or something for the wife or me or something and make sure that if it does capsize, we'll be safe in the water too.
So I think your question is very valid. You ha- we all engage in action. ठीक है, action तो करना ही है. Once we are living in life, in that particular example, don't take that example as the only thing. We have spoken so much on karma yoga, Manish. Don't ignore that just with that example. That example, in my understanding, Osho used to tell you what shraddha and surrender means. लोगों को surrender समझ में ही नहीं आता है. तो अभी आप जो बोल रहे हैं, लोग surrender यही समझते हैं कि भगवान पे छोड़ दो, हमें कुछ करने की क्या जरूरत है. अभी पिछले 3 चैप्टर्स में कृष्ण बोले जा रहे हैं that you do your action because you cannot be without action. The whole thing that he is telling Arjun is, Arjun, you cannot be without action. You have to act. You are not even made like this that you can go and take sannyas. What you are saying is ki, अरे let me take sannyas from action. Isn't that what you are saying, Manish?
Yeah,
मुझे कुछ करने की जरूरत नहीं है, भगवान सब कुछ करता है, मैं तो ऐसे ही बैठा रहूंगा. 90% of the people are not like this. We are all made to act. Rajo, tamos, sattva gun hamare andar hai. So Krishna is telling Arjun, you must act. That particular example is to show us what surrender truly means. What you are saying is not surrender, Manish. What you are saying is not surrender. It is escapism. There is difference between surrender and escapism. He did not say भगवान को जो करना है. It is not like that. See, you're in the middle. Maybe that guy even does all that. I'm not saying, it's an extreme example that is shown कि तुम कि श्रद्धा क्या होती है. It is like, he says he puts that sword to the wife and the wife starts laughing and she says, what is the worry? What is the problem? You are holding it. How can it hurt me? Can you imagine being in that position? We are not she is not fatalistic. Is the wife fatalistic? And I don't think the wife's response is fatalistic. In fact, it is 100% certainty that, array, it is with my husband, nothing can happen to me. It is very positive. It is not negative. The example that you are giving कि अरे हाँ भगवान करेंगे सब कुछ, हमें क्या करने की जरूरत है, this is a fatalistic and a very negative mindset. Do you see the difference? Whereas the wife who's got that sword poking almost there laughs and says she's positive, she's joyful, and she says, why should I be worried? It's with you. Nothing is going to happen to me. If you can be like this in your relationship with God, first, you will never stop acting. Isn't it? The moment you are in this, अरे क्या है, जो करना है वो करेंगे, बगल में हमारे कोई बैठा है, कोई somebody might fall, we will offer them our hand and help them. This kind of a person will behave like that, isn't it? Just put yourself in that person's situation and feel what he's feeling. That's what, if you're so confident, so sure that God will take care, you have not left on God. You have trusted and affirmed that God is there. He's so present. He is there. That the life vest or everything is going to be there for me. And you are so positive that if somebody else beside you was sinking, you would not be afraid to offer your hand. Don't you think that the wife's mindset is like that when she's doing this, or the husband's mindset is like that? What do you think?
mm, possibly maybe I have not evolved enough to understand it. But I mean, guys, that I think that in the current situation, everybody we start acting or we start doing things preparing, or if there is any fire in the area, like when you start preparing for fire, or if there is any pandemics or whatever, like when you start preparing and start acting out, I mean, it's like you don't say that, well, whatever happens, kind of happens. We will just leave it. I have faith that it will happen to me.
So the whole chapter on chapter 3 has been about karma yoga, where we have been told by Krishna, you must act, and there is no other option. Throughout the chapter, Krishna is giving this guidance to Arjun that you must act, and you must act as an offering to me. Don't do it with expectations. Even if there is fire, you act because you must act, and you must, but you do it as an offering to me. This has been the whole chapter for 35 verses he's been telling us. Then in the 35th, 34th, 35th verse, he says, when I say you do it as an offering to me, you can do it only when you are totally surrendered. Then you will not even think about it, that I must do it as an offering. Whatever comes out of you is in a surrendered state. So that human being is totally surrendered. So yes, this is a very high level of evolution, like Osho. आप ओशो का हम शायद उस स्टेट में नहीं है. I am not in that state. I am probably like you, where if I see that there is a need, I will act. I may not even have that, I will have bharosa in God, but I will also not simply sit there and pray, 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 God, I'm so fearful. I will not be so full of fear where I will just say, let me pray, God will take care. No, I will act, because you need to act. I may, and then, so that action has to happen. But surrendered state is the people like Osho, people like Sadhguru, they are already in surrendered state. कि भगवान देखेंगे वो, they don't even try to save themselves. Buddha, when he is poisoned, he doesn't even try to save himself. कि अब ये तो होना ही है. Whatever the whole wishes, I will flow with it. कि मुझे कुछ नहीं होगा. Like Socrates example, we said, no, when Socrates was given poison to drink, he says, what is there to worry? These are people who are established in trust. They are so established that extreme situations also don't deter them. Manish, this may have been your and my experience in smaller situations, in simpler situations, maybe in mundane life, where we are like, huh, so what? You know, God will take care. It will, or we may have that trust that जो होगा ठीक ही होगा. Have you experienced anything like this in your own life in smaller situations which are not so extreme, where you know whatever you had done was done, ab iske aage there is nothing for you to do? What can you do? Suppose you have no life vest, nothing, you have nothing, what can you do? Have you experienced situations, anybody here in your own life, where whatever could be done was done, and now you just have this trust in God that He really will take care of me. There is no way He's just going to abandon me. Have you felt like this? Have you had such moments in your life, Manish, when you have felt that jo kar sakte the kara, but I know God will not abandon me. If He's there, why should I worry? And you have still been light. See, there is a sense of lightness and joy in those people who are surrendered. People who are fatalistic, who don't want to work, and who are escapist, they are governed by tamas. Tamas is very high in them. People like this man and his wife, I would say they are in state of sattva. Sattva is very high, so they are in a state of trust. Of course, it's an extreme example, but it is also to show us, इसको श्रद्धा बोलते हैं, इसे सरेंडर बोलते हैं. आप जो बोलते हैं ना कि हम काम नहीं करेंगे, भगवान सब कुछ देखे, हमें काम करने की क्या जरूरत है, हम तो कोने में बैठ जाते हैं. This is what Krishna is telling Arjun, don't do. You are telling me you will go take sannyas and you will simply sit. I don't have to do anything. I will meditate and I will come into my liberation. And Krishna is telling him exactly not to do that. So it is not to say, this example is not to tell you, do not put effort. It is showing you the second part of effort, which is effortlessness. So, um, it is effortless effort. If you remember, Manish, हमने योगा सूत्रा में करा था, Maharishi Patanjali spoke of prayatna shaitilyam. He said asana quality should be prayatna shaitilyam. Prayatna is effort. First prayatna and shaitalyam. Second step is to drop the effort. It is never about only effortlessness. There is no such thing. First, all of us, the way we are with Rajas, that is why we have a body. That's why karma is important. So there is effort and there is effortlessness. But only a person who must have applied that level of effort or whatever can come into such a state. This is my understanding. I don't know if you've had some, like I'm sure you've had some small mundane experiences, maybe hota hai, where you felt so centered and so established in yourself. Jab, you knew he will take care. He's there. It will get handled. I'm sure. I mean, I ऐसे कुछ तो let me think and see if I have something from my life. Abhi, I don't, but if there is, I'll share with you. Anybody else wants to share something which can bring light to it? I don't know if I've been able to explain.
Swati, just my experience or the way I interpret it is, we always think in terms of action and inaction. That is at a physical level of operating, right? Outside, we have to act or we decide not to act. That's at a physical level. But when I think Gita and even the Bible goes into this, we talk about surrender. That's at a deeper level, at a
Yeah.
mind and how you are. So if you're coming from a place of surrender, what you act or you decide not to act is it's irrelevant, right? The Bible says, it's, I think it's accept the things that I cannot change, courage to change the things that I can change, and most importantly, the wisdom to know the difference. Right?
Hmm.
To me, that resonates.
Yes.
It's like,
Yeah.
if you are in a state of surrender, then you will be guided as to what the appropriate course of action is, and then you just do it, right? So, or if the appropriate course of action is not to do anything, you don't do anything. And then you take yourself out of the equation, and inside you are in a state of surrender, and then outside you do whatever is appropriate, or you don't do anything at all. So
Yeah.
I think that sometimes leads to conflict. You can be very active when you are in a state of surrender, or you can be totally passive as well, whatever is appropriate for the situation, and you take yourself out of the equation. So that's the way I interpret it. I don't know if that makes sense.
That's there's a very good point you brought out there, which is that I do not exist in the place of surrender. There is no I. So the right action begins to flow out through me. If it is appropriate, if it is needed, and if it's possible, it gets done. If there is nothing to do, it doesn't get done. Like again, I go back to Socrates' example there. So, because only a person who is in a surrendered state, there is no I. If the I is strong, then the effort is always there because I exist, the ego exists, the ego wants to express itself. But for a surrendered being, and again, I'm going back to people like Osho and Sadhguru, it is the I does not exist. So they will go with the flow, and it's from a place of that trust. I don't know if I'm making, but I like what Vinay said. What do you have to say, Manish?
No, it's true. I mean, I find a lot of things that happen in my personal life everywhere. I mean, that without planning too much, everything has happened so much that I almost feel like that I am taking back seat and whatever happening. I mean, it's been pretty much beyond what I would have even dreamt of for most of the time. So even one of the journeys during COVID to bring my parents from India was like was that an example of that. That if you look at it, anything and everything could have gone wrong, but
Mm.
we were there in 4 days and at the height of COVID, and we were able to bring my sick dad back home. I mean, it was. I mean, I had no idea. Like, I mean, any little hiccup and would have been over. But I mean, so we still able to make it, and it happened. I mean, so we just I somehow figured that somebody will take care of it. Existence will take care of it or something.
So you've had that experience. So moments of surrender where ego disappeared for some time has happened to us. The problem is that we are unable to sustain this experience. So जब ego disappear हो जाता है, rajas, tamas and sattva have come into a certain state of equilibrium. The problem with us is we all need to keep going through that practice to keep this organization, keep this structure in place. So it may happen for a few moments, it may happen for some time, and then it disrupts again. The molecules move again. Because that's how Rajas Tamas Sattva is. That's what Osho keeps telling us. No, you have to constantly work. That's what Sadhguru also tells us. Your Kriya, first organize yourself. Every morning you have to get up and organize yourself because it's always moving. Rajas Tamas Sattva ka wo triangle organize karna hai. So that means in your own life, you have had moments and glimpses where you fell into surrender, where the I just disappeared. There must be, I don't know, this is how I understand. I'm also not enlightened. I'm not, but this leads, this is how I see it.
One of them talked about, I think it was Osho talk about Tattva not being guna, but I think he said that if you balance those two, automatically you end up in a state of Sattva. Yeah, Sattva is a state, it's not really a guna that you strive for. It does like Osho make that which become equal rajas and equal tamas. That's when you get into the state of Sattva. So
Yes.
you're not trying to be cultivate sattvic guns, but when you do balance those two, automatically you'll wake up in that state. So that balance has to be continuously maintained.
Correct. Correct. So that and that we will come to that today. In today's class, we're talking about gunas, but I will just say from this perspective of presentation and the whole Gita thing, that don't just take one example and just put it out of context. Let's not put it out of context. This whole chapter is about karma yoga. Now he has given us so many examples, Arjun's whole story, and we just pick up this one example and we say कि नहीं तो फिर तो बैठ जाओ, कुछ करने को नहीं है. नहीं, there is a difference in this example. It's about Shraddha. It is not about fatalism. That example is to show you what is the level, what is the depth in your heart to be able to come face to face with death and still laugh at it and say, oh, he's there, he'll take care of it. This is the ultimate surrender. Today we all talk of death, but if you are genuinely really faced with death right now, what will happen to you? Can we be in the state of that husband? Just now you're faced with death. Can we really be like that? Most of us will. There will be some sort of fear. The first thing we'll worry about our children, family. We will all fear. There will be some fear. That man is in that state of absolute surrender, absolute centeredness. Uski centeredness idhar udhar nahi hoti. Yes, it's okay. He's centered. He's established. Nothing that if it comes, let it come. Kya hai? That is, it's a very, very high and positive state. It's not fatalistic. I don't see it like that. So, okay.
Swati, I just want to add something that
Yeah.
when I've prayed, always try to pray or whatever, but when you ask for something and when it gets fulfilled, then it's a different feeling. And then you ask for something, it doesn't get fulfilled, then it's a different feeling. But over my life, I've realized that my best prayer and best feelings and best experience have been those in which there's been confusing or conflicting times. And I've just asked for her guidance, that just put your hand on me and let my actions, let my words, let my thoughts all be directed to what you think is best for me. You know? So I think that's helped me. I don't know how that kind of fits in here. But then the conflict comes in, like when you talk about manifestation, right? When you want something or you want to be, like want meaning, like not just a desire that way, a physical desire, but like want to be better in X, Y, Z qualities or something. And then how do you do that? Do you manifest? How does manifestation fit in?
Absolutely. Go ahead. You're living in the materialistic world, but just be clear in your mind that manifestation is not going to lead you to liberation. However, so we have never said that you cannot manifest, you cannot have what you want, you cannot fulfill your materialistic desires. If that is there, go ahead and fulfill it. You have to live in this world, in this life. You need money, you need house, you need food, you need shelter. All of that is necessary. So go ahead, fulfill it. Whatever you call as your needs. If you think 2 cars are your need, then that's your need.
Yeah.
And you fulfill it. And as you do that, once your mundane life is settled, it will open up and give you time for spiritual, for your own sadhana. So there is nothing wrong with it. It is never it is not looked down upon. Even Osho says, but be clear in your head. Don't think that just doing this or doing puja is going to take me towards liberation. No, that puja or havan is only going to help you manifest a certain desire which will bring you fulfillment. Fine. Okay, be fulfilled. But as life smoothens out and it creates time for you, use that time towards sadhana, towards your own inner growth. That is the point. Be clear in your head. Don't think it's going to take you towards moksha. It will not. So don't deceive yourself. That Osho emphasizes. Okay, I think, yeah.
Sorry, I have a really quick story I heard this week. So when you talked about Swami Paramahansa Yogananda's chapter 11, so I found a living example of that this week. So I was at the hospital, and one of my patients was a lady in her 60s, and she was in the hospital for some leg pain. So she was telling me about her life story. And she said that she grew up very poor in India, in Maharashtra, in a small village. And there were 4 sisters. And her mom was very poor, the family was very poor. And her dad had a job. But after work, he would just go to the mandir. There was a temple in the village, and he would just go there and do satsang and pray. And her mom was telling him, get a second job, work extra hours, study to get a better certificate, to make more money, do something. We have 4 girls. And she said, in India, to marry 4 girls, it's very difficult because the boys' families are very demanding. And so the mom just worried and worried about marrying her 4 daughters. And her dad did not worry at all. So she went to the priest at the temple, and she told him, look, I'm very worried. My girls are growing up. How am I going to get them married? How can we afford anything? And the priest told her, he goes, don't worry, God will provide. And she goes, what is this God will provide? Who's going to provide it? My girls are teenagers now. And so she said that, all 4 of us, we got married to very wealthy men. And all 4 of us had wonderful lives. And she goes,
Beautiful.
and my father, he didn't worry about money or anything. He just he put, his God first. And after work, he went straight and prayed every day. And that's what happened. And I thought, wow, we were just talking about that.
So beautiful. Manish, did you read chapter 11, Autobiography of a Yogi? You may have read it earlier, but did you read it again?
Not again, no.
पढ़ो मनीष आपको maybe it will give you the same thing it informs कि like his brother challenges him. Remember, he challenges him saying that, oh, you're saying you will just do all this spiritual sadhana. First, organize your life, Mukund. Get money first. God will follow. And he challenges him back. He says, no, God first. Money is his slave. Money will follow. So, his brother says, life may be too long. He says, who knows? Life may be too short. I will miss God. This is what matters to me. His surrender is, do you think he's fatalistic? He's not fatalistic, but he does nothing. He is challenged, but his surrender, it's not his belief. His trust in his God is so strong. He goes penniless. He sits in a train. Those 2 people find him. They take him by his arm and they take him to that lady who had prepared a feast. His brother had said, first condition, you must be fed. They are fed. Does he do anything? Does he go to find that where should? But this is the difference between a person who is showing. Let's look at surrender as having 2 sides to it. Surrender itself is a word which has been cheapened because of overusage. Ek side of surrender hota hai tamasic, fatalistic. People who talk like this, I will do nothing. What will God do? That is why, sometimes Osho has said that sattva also looks like tamas because these people are so calm. They are so centered. They don't move so much. So they almost look tamasic, but they are not tamasic. There is enormous activity which is going on inside, but on the outside, they are very centered. So a tamasic person can look sattvic and a sattvic person can look tamasic. Same thing with surrender. True Shraddha is the positive aspect, the sattvic aspect of this thing of the word we call surrender. And the tamasic aspect of this surrender is this fatalistic attitude. On the outside, it looks like it's the same. But on the inside, it is a different phenomena. The person who is like Paramhans Yogananda, his root, it's like literally you can see that if that flowering, his root is so strong, nothing shakes it. His trunk is so strong, nothing shakes it. This other man who says भगवान ही सब कुछ करेगा, कल उसके सामने लाकर डेथ रख दो, सब कुछ टूट फूट कर बिखर जाएगा. That is a testing point. Death tests you. How much surrender you have. How much are you willing to go with God? Because when you say that I'm surrendered, you are saying I'm yes to everything that God says. वो जो करा ले मैं करूं, मैं को कुछ करने की जरूरत नहीं है. वो जो करा ले. इसका मतलब अगर वो कुछ नेगेटिव कराएं तो वो भी ठीक है. कल मेरे साथ सब अच्छा हो रहा है, so I said, okay, God is so nice, and I praise the Lord. Tomorrow someone comes, robs my whole house, destroys my whole house, then do I still praise the God? Or do I saying there is no God? Do I start saying there is no God? This is the difference, I think, in the two parts of surrender. One is Shraddha, one is just a belief, or just it's not
Yeah,
set.
so I still have a issue with part of it. Is I mean, like, it will be there. I mean, I'd like get a little bit more mature or evolved, maybe a little bit more. But like when a guy gets the guy's house is robbed, or whatever example, I mean, I always find that Paramanda was one. It was like, I mean, exceptional. That's why he got there penniless. But so many people are walking around penniless without working. They're not getting anywhere like the Paramanda Yoga in the state. I mean, so there may be that they're, whether it's the lack of karma or the lack of action, that's what's getting them there, or what? Because you see when you go to temples and people are lined up begging for pennies and rupees and everything. I mean, so is that part, to me, looking at that it's still both of them are no action. They're just waiting for somebody to come and do something for them.
Those people don't want to do. They're lazy. They're tamasic. You cannot even compare them. I would say they're just tamasic. They're lazy. They don't even have faith. Neither do they have work. Neither do they want to work. They're just lazy. They neither want to work, nor do they have genuine sharandan, nor do they have the strength in their heart, or nor do they have the strength of emotion. They are nothing. That it's not even. I don't think that's even a comparable example. That cannot be compared. Either you have that strength in your heart, so much emotion. It's like जैसे नरसिंह मेहता का, Shaila just gives example. You know Narasimha Mehta stories, no? So he had God provided for him, no? But his strength of emotion was so strong that he would stop. He was going. One story is there that he was going. His wife told him, "Go buy some ghee or something." There was some puja going to happen in the house. So as he is going to buy that, on the way there is some celebration that is happening for Krishna, and he stops and he joins that, because it's like he's just drawn to it. He's just drawn towards wherever there is fragrance of God, and he starts dancing and everything, and then he forgets, oh my God, my wife asked me to do this. And then he reaches home and realizes that he had already been given. For the one who is so deeply connected to God will take care of everything. The people you are talking about, Manish, they are neither. ना वो लोग काम करते हैं, ना उनकी strength of emotion, ना उनकी श्रद्धा है, कुछ भी तो नहीं है. How can we compare them? God will not take care of them. How will God take care? They have not offered themselves to God. They have not even asked God to help them. Verbally, भगवान को बोलो भगवान मेरे को पैसा दे दो, थोड़ी होता है. ये अंदर की श्रद्धा है. This is the strength of your emotion and the strength of your heart. That is what will change. I don't know if that helps. But I will also keep this in mind. And if I come across any points with Osho or from anything I have, any reflections, I will share. It's a good point but it's a, I would just say, don't just use one example and say this. And very clearly, Karma Yoga is not telling us to be fatalistic, to not do work. It is telling us, please do work, engage in action, extremely important. In fact, the thing about Karma Yoga is you're right. You have adhikar only for action. Manoj, my teacher, would say a human being has adhikar only for action, not for inaction. So this is your only adhikar. But at the same time, and if you do it, you will definitely attain punya. You're doing work, you will get paid for it. Good, very nice. Life will be nice. However, if you want liberation through this path, then give all your actions, offer all your actions also as though you are doing it to me. But that requires a different aspect of your being. It requires your heart, it requires your shraddha, and it requires very thick and solid shraddha, something which is unshakable no matter what happens, even if you're faced with death. So I don't know. We'll take it up. Yeah, if something else comes up, or if anybody else has thoughts, please feel free to share. If I come across any other literature or write up, I'll definitely share on this. All right. So I'm not on share screen. Okay. Can you all share? Can you all see the? Yeah, it's the full screen view, right?
Yeah.
All right. So we spoke about Swadharma. Is everybody clear about Swadharma? So Paradharma, Krishna bolte hain Paradharma, kisi aur ka dharma. And that is, by that he's saying aptitude. Don't stay with your own aptitude. Realize your own potential. You should know what you want, what you are best at, and follow that. Don't try to copy others. Don't try to imitate others, because that will only take you to adharma. Paradharma takes you towards adharma. Swadharma will take you towards dharma. Okay, I think there's enough sharing I did also on the group chat on this, so you can read up. Everybody's clear on that. This idea will get elaborated again on chapter 4, where Osho will get into actually telling us methods to discover what your swadharma is. Many of us don't know that's because we are too busy looking outside. We don't turn inward. So silence and looking within words will help you realize your own swadharma. What is so unique about you? I was recently listening to Jiddu Krishnamurti on just a small talk, and he's talking to a set of children, okay? And he says, don't go after all this money, power, and fame. And what's the point of all this? Because in any case, all of us are going to die. So what's the point? You should do what you know what you are created for, what you are best at, what's your talent. Whatever is your talent, you cultivate that talent, you offer that, because life is only once, and this life is meant for you to offer that talent, to bring that aptitude to fruition. So that's how he spoke of it. And I was reminded of, okay, this is Swadharma, and to that degree, it's just one life. We're all going to die anyways. So what's the point? Okay. So 3.36, sorry, I didn't get the Sanskrit of this here. On this matter, Arjun asks, what compels a man to commit sin, even though he acts against his own will, even though he is unwilling? Lord Krishna says, oh, Arjun, lust and anger arise in a man who has the quality of Rajas. They are voracious. In other words, they are similar to a fire which is never satisfied. Hence, they are a source of great sin. Know them as your enemies. So kama, krodha, lobha happens because of rajas. Now, so Arjun is asking Krishna, that we don't want to do any wrong, yet wrong happens. And who is doing this? Why are we helpless? Why do, I don't want to get angry, but still I get angry. And the old religion, like in Osho's way, how he explains, he says many people would say that, oh, it's the devil. It is the devil that leads you. But if the devil leads you, then the devil must be more powerful than God. Then let's drop God and follow the devil. So there are these kind of explanations which are given, which are not correct, which are not valid. So what compels us? Why do we end up doing certain things or acting in ways that we don't want to, and yet it happens to us? This happens because of gunas, and gunas are existential forces. They are, just see gunas as forces in nature. They are always active. You are made up of gunas. The three gunas are rajas, tamas, and sattva. When desire, so he says kama, krodha, lobha. This is what is the quality of rajas. So when desire, and it all comes from where? It comes from desire. So when desire gets frustrated, it becomes anger. Okay, so kama is desire. When it gets frustrated, if your desire is not fulfilled, you get angry. If it gets fulfilled, what do you want? You want more of it, isn't it? That is what is happening. So so kama takes you away from our kartavya, from what it is that we must be doing, from Ishta Devata and from inner self. This is something that my teacher Manoj had mentioned, so I'm including that in our commentary. So see, so this insight that Krishna gives, that it is a result of existential forces because of which you act in a certain way, it's a very scientific, psychologically very valid sort of an explanation, and existed in those times. I mean, it's coming from Krishna 5,000 years ago. So the three. Okay, so who forces us to commit evil acts? It's not the devil. It's about going off balance. Because you cannot manage your energy, because you go off balance, that is why things which are not in your highest interest still begin to happen through you. So let's look at the three energies. There is tamas, okay? Now, tamas is the force of resistance. It is what stops something. If you throw a ball up in the air, it falls back down, no? Why does that happen? That happens because of the existential force of tamas, which is same as gravity. The ball falls down. Otherwise, you throw the ball, it'll keep going up, 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 up. So tamas is that which stops. Very important force, okay? It is what allows us to sit and meditate. Otherwise, we'll not be able to sit. We'll continuously keep moving. What is Rajas? Rajas is the energy of movement. Okay, it is exactly opposite to tamas. And it's like, I like how Osho explains a beautiful example. He says you're sitting in a car, there's an accelerator and there's a brake. So the brake is the force of stopping something, and the accelerator is to give gati, give speed to something. So there is, you use the accelerator and you use the brake to manage your speed, to know where you have to stop, where you have to move fast, correct? But who decides all this? How much you should move, where you should stop? This discretion is applied by the driver. That driver is the sattva. That driver is the sattva aspect, okay? So I also liked how in Osho's commentary he has likened these three forces. He says, so Krishna knows this, and he speaks of these idea of these three forces 5,000 years ago. But as scientists developed, as scientists discovered, we discovered the electron, proton, and neutron, correct? This electron, proton, and neutron corresponds to Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva. Electron is like the negative energy, okay? It is it destroys, okay? It is in some sense. Then there is proton, which is the positive force, and there's neutron, which is neither negative nor positive, okay? So electron is seen as like tamas, proton is seen as like positive rajas, and then there is neutron, which is like the sattva, which is a balancing force. Science speaks of these three qualities as electron, proton, neutron. In our culture, these three qualities, these three existential forces were also spoken of as Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. So Brahma is the force of creation, that force which is positive, which creates something. So that is rajas, same as proton. Then the force which destroys, which is tamas, Shiva, or we call in scientific language electron. And there is neutron, which is neither positive nor negative. It is the one which is in center and it balances. Brahma, this is the force of preservation, which is Vishnu. So even this trinity has always existed. Does that make sense? Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, electron, proton, neutron, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. This is the grid. This has always existed. Okay? Makes sense, right? So what pushes us into doing something wrong? What pushes us into doing something wrong is our own imbalance. Because we are not aware, we lose our balance, we lose our place of the driver. And so either tamas takes over, either the brake is on or the accelerator is on and we don't know when to stop. We don't know how to manage our speed. So it is not the devil, okay? Now, it's like Osho says, you are the one who has sown the seeds. See, you may have a thought. First, you have a thought. Then the thought becomes word. And then the word gathers momentum and it becomes action. Like somewhere I had read, thoughts become things. So you say, who did this wrong action? Now, if you are constantly feeding negative thoughts into the mind, not and without awareness, they are just running constantly like mental diarrhea. You are strengthening that seed. It will soon become a tree and then it will bear its fruit. It will bear neem, it will bear bitter fruit. And then you are asking, who created this for me? How did this happen to me? You created this for yourself by not being aware, by not being in sattva, by not watching it. So sattva is that force which watches and redirects the energy. It does not suppress, it watches that why, what is the point of thinking like this? And it will replace it with a positive force or with a balancing force, actually, whatever is necessary, okay? Now, So there is one very important point. So there is sattva, which is in the driver's seat. Now, if you move your entire force towards love, which is, say, positive, the positive aspects of life, then you will get happiness. Happiness means you will get punya. Wonderful. If all the existential force in you just goes and dumps itself into tamas, then what will happen? You will get sadness, you will get grief, and you will be in hell. Please see this. This is the triangle, sattva, rajas, and tamas. All force dumped into tamas is hell. You know, everything is dark. All force dumped into rajas is positive, love is happiness, it's heaven. Between, you will just, your life will keep swinging between rajas and tamas, between heaven and hell, between pap and punya. Where is moksha? Where is liberation? We are talking moksha shastra. How will you come into liberation? So if you're always swinging between rajas and tamas, you will only keep coming back into this samsara, stay in the cyclical nature of samsara. To come into liberation and freedom needs us to get established in sattva. Okay, so that is why it becomes very important for us to manage our energies. So energies can be managed up to a certain point. If they reach a certain pitch, it's like if your rajas reaches a certain pitch, you cannot draw it back. So a person who is sitting in the driver's seat is always watching his energy. How is it flowing? Which direction is it flowing? Is it becoming too negative? How should I redirect it? Does that make sense? We've spoken so much of this. And when I say energy moving in a certain direction, it's the same thing as saying desires. Energy is desire. Which direction is it moving? What kind of thoughts are running in my head? And how do I redirect them? So it's like, you're going on a highway, you're going at 100 miles per hour. Now at 120 miles per hour, it is difficult to stop because the car will move by its own momentum. But if you're moving at 10, 15 miles per hour, it's very easy, correct? It's very easy to manage. So when a thought comes in your head and it may turn into a word, at that time is the light of sattva is shining on it. And if at that time we are aware, we can redirect this energy. We can channelize it. Many ways of channelizing, where we can use mantra, we can use japa to channelize it. We can use an affirmation to channelize the same energy, or we can just notice it, make a decision within ourselves. There is an intellect behind the mind which can make a decision within itself saying that, mind, you want to run in this nonsense, you run, I'm not going with you. And then slowly the thought itself will disappear. So don't when these kind of negative thoughts come, or when you want to redirect, notice how you are pouring the light of sun, the light, the water, the air. If you are keep pouring it into these thoughts are like seeds. So watching this, and it can only go up to a certain point. So once it is uttered, once anger comes out, then there is no way. You cannot bring it back. Okay. So there is a lot of unconscious repetition, mental diarrhea that goes on. This is something which we need to be aware of. So there is this, example Osho gives from this book, Crime and Punishment, Raskolnikov. Okay. There is this young man who is a neighbor of this old lady who is a money lender. She's a very cruel woman. If people are not able to return the money, she will ask them for the last thing that they have, even their clothes. She will take them to the court of law. She will have them sentenced. She is extremely cruel. So every time Raskolnikov sees this, he has this urge, why is this woman like this? Somebody should just kill her, isn't it? She should just die. What is the point of her life? So these kind of thoughts keep running in his head. For 2 years, he's watching her, and these kind of thoughts are running in his head. Then one day, he doesn't get money from his home. He has to pay his tuition. So he has a watch. He goes to this woman to pawn the watch and get some money. And he is looking at her. She's examining, is this real? How much can I give? And she goes close to the window to check it. And the moment she does it, he just takes the axe and he kills her. And then he doesn't know what he has done, because suddenly he sees all this blood and he gets scared and he runs back to his apartment and he hides himself. He doesn't know what he has done. But for 2 years, these thoughts were breeding in his head. He was watering them, he was giving them sunshine, he was literally cultivating this thought. Then the thought turns into action. So this is because he was not in an aware state when those thoughts were coming. That is why this thing happened. So the greatest guidance for all of us is to watch. To sattva means to be a watcher, to be a sakshi, to be a witness, and all the time. This is like mentally, it's a very demanding job to be aware of it, to consciously keep directing your energy. So Osho बोलते हैं, आप चलें होश पूर्वक चलें, ध्यान से चलें. Be conscious, be aware. होश पूर्वक चलो. Be conscious. What are you doing? What are you saying? What is going on in your head? Which direction should your energy move in? This is the path of life. And we are walking in a hypnotized way. Many of us are. So, so nobody can force us to become angry, to become full of desires. Nature has its own laws, and these are the existential forces. These are the laws. So normally, see, this is the triangle of Rajas, Tamas, Sattva. Normally, the guidance at level 1, the guidance that we are given is if Tamas is very high, if you're feeling too much inertia, lethargy, laziness, then move into Rajas to balance the Tamas. If there is too much movement, excessive work, excessive running around, too much thinking, then you need to silence yourself. Just go sit quietly for some time. This is level 1 of practice. Balance Rajas with Tamas, okay, constantly. But if you keep just balancing Rajas and Tamas, you will keep swinging between happiness and sadness, between heaven and hell, and you will keep coming back into samsara. The whole life will go into that. Second level is to actually come into sattva. So come into sattva, and from a place of sattva, balance all three. But this requires a certain state of being in balance. It's like you're walking the tightrope. You're walking on the rope, and if you are walking on the rope and you are simply the watcher. I'm walking on the rope. I'm simply the watcher. I'm perfectly balanced on the rope. Okay. Right now, I'm perfectly balanced on the rope. I'm in sattva. Now, all I'm doing is that I should not tilt too much to Rajas. If I'm tilting too much to Rajas, I'm simply shifting my balance to this side. But what I'm doing is not moving between Rajas and Tamas. What I'm doing is maintaining my balance. This is level 2 of practice. Please remember, level 1 is just shifting between Rajas ko Tamas se balance kar lo, Tamas ko Rajas se. The second level is awareness is on being balanced. Focus is not on Rajas and Tamas. Focus is on being balanced. So if I see myself leaning a little bit here, I will apply leaning here. If I'm seeing myself leaning here, I'll apply this. But the focus is on balance. This is level 2 of practice. And as someone does this, he can become established in sattva, which Osho says is the state of a sadhu. He says sadhu is someone who is established in sattva. His triangle is more or less all his molecules. Literally, we are nothing but many trillions of atoms, which are molecules just bound together so closely. And there is a certain organization, there is a certain geometry in which we are organized. That is why, all our Surya Namaskars, the Kriya that we do, it organizes itself in a certain way when we do those practices. So when Sadhguru says, we are organizing your energy, what he means is he's organizing our Rajas, Tamas, Sattva in a certain way. So there is balance within us. So a sadhu is someone who comes into a state of sattva. Then as you become established, you can become so evolved, you can become so perfect like a Buddha that through the center of the triangle, you can just simply exit. Now you are no more between heaven and hell in samsara. You will go into moksha, because from the center of the triangle, you will go. We discussed this in Yoga Sutra, this triangle, and how the one who comes into that nirvikalp, nirvitark, nirbija samadhi, which is the final samadhi, nirbija. Only if you come into nirbija samadhi, you will exit through the center of the triangle, moksha. No more birth for you again. Gunas do not operate now. Gunas will not have that force because you're beyond that. Does that make sense? All right. So, So level 3 is beyond 3. Now, so Krishna's yoga is the yoga of balance, samatvam. I'm not, sorry, I didn't copy that Sanskrit translation, but it's about samatvam, it's about balance. All right, 38 and 39. Just like fire is covered by smoke, just like a mirror is covered by dirt. Look at the word Krishna uses, dirt. And if you look at the Sanskrit, this thing, I missed it. I'm sorry, I missed copying those. Uh, the word dirt in Sanskrit, the literal translation is almost like feces, it's like that kind of dirt he's talking about. Like a mirror covered by dirt, just like an embryo is covered by a membrane, similarly, true knowledge is concealed by desires. Arjun, desire is like an insatiable fire which wise men consider as their eternal enemy because it conceals true knowledge. So in okay, so what Krishna is telling is that gyan, knowledge. So knowledge here is gyan, not information, not what you study from texts. When this word knowledge is used as a translation, it is as gyan. So gyan exists inside all of us. Everybody has. So gyan or God, whatever you want to call it, exists in all of us, but it is simply obscured. In some of us, it is simply obscured by smoke. It is very little. Smoke does not have any density, You cannot cut smoke, you cannot burn smoke. It has no density. It's almost like nothing. वो कुछ भी नहीं है, वो तत्व नहीं है, कोई तत्व नहीं है उसमें. It has no weight, it has no density to it. So in some people, it is just like smoke and a little bit of effort, little bit of sadhana, and the smoke clears off and they see Gyan, they see their true nature. In some people, it is like a mirror which is covered by dirt. So this idea of mirror, okay, we will explore this further, but mirror is like that. See, so mirror is a little bit more dense. If dirt is there, it becomes a little more opaque, very difficult to identify what Gyan or who am I. And in some people, it is like an embryo which is covered by a membrane. It is not yet time to come out. They still have to wait. These are people who can be in deep tamas. So when it is deep tamas, you cannot even talk. They are not ready. You just have to wait it out for the evolution to happen. So true knowledge and all these obscurations, so to say, they are all, so smoke is desire, dirt is also desire, and that membrane is also desire. It depends upon your desires and the kind of desires that you have, which create this kind of opacity. So there is this thing that Osho has mentioned. So there is a common interpretation of the 39th verse where desire burns like an unquenchable fire, which never brings happiness to anyone. The wise renounce it, knowing it to be the root of misery. But those who do not understand this secret waste away their life in the futile pursuit of trying to satiate their lust. So Osho says this is, it is a common interpretation, but that is not what it is. It's not about simply renouncing it. Renouncing desires. You cannot just renounce desires. We spoke of this, you cannot simply cut it off. It's like green leaf. It still has, it hurts. It will wound the tree. It will wound the leaf also. So desires have to be worked with. You have to work your desires, either fulfill it or you dissolve the seed of desires through sadhana, through kriya. You burn those desires through that. Those are the only, but desires have to be worked. You cannot suppress it. You cannot run away from it. You cannot escape it. Desire is the force because of which you exist. You exist because of the force of desire. Because desire, if it is broken down, breaks into Rajas Tamas Sattva. If you say you have no desire, Rajas Tamas Sattva is gone, body is gone. It's the force of desire which creates a body. So depending upon our level of desires, a certain level and intensity of cleaning up is required so that we can come into Gyan, we can come into self-realization. So it is not, that is why they explain that knowledge or enlightenment is not an attainment, it is not an accomplishment. It is simply dropping off the veils, dropping off the layers, and that which is within you will just simply light up. Like in yoga, they say you're simply like a lamp with many veils that are covering you. And through your practices of pranayam, through your practices of kriya, you're removing and thinning the veils. Tanu Karnam, Maharishi Patanjali says, no, Tanu Karnam, that is what is called thinning of the veils. As you thin the veils, that which is within you will appear. So when Buddha was asked that you became enlightened, so what happened? What did you gain after enlightenment? So Buddha says, what is there to gain? I didn't gain anything. In fact, I lost everything. What did I lose? I lost my ignorance. I lost all the smoke, etc., whatever was surrounding me. So this is how Gyan and coming into Gyan has been explained by Krishna. Now, one very interesting, explanation that Osho gives on the smoke idea is, he says, desire is like smoke, which is produced by damp wood. An individual who is beyond desire is like dry wood. So he says, see, wherever there is fire, there is, wherever there is smoke, there has to be some fire. Correct? Wherever there is smoke, there has to be some fire. But wherever there is fire, it need not necessarily have smoke. A flame is fire. It's like a Buddha's flame, but it has no smoke. Now there is nothing which is covering it. It is absolutely clear. It is shining bright. Does that make sense? So that is how Osho has explained it. And I think this one. And many commentators have mentioned how this metaphor of smoke is very profound, because it does not have any substance. It cannot be grasped, it cannot be cut or pushed, and it's nothing substantial, yet it obscures. Just even something as insubstantial as smoke can obscure true knowledge. So okay. The second thing that he says is it can be like dirt on mirror. Now, when Krishna says it can be dirt on mirror, this metaphor is also very potent, very powerful. See, how our mind is like a mirror. It is supposed to be like a mirror. How does a mirror function? You stand in front of the mirror and you see your reflection. But when you move away from the mirror, that reflection is no more there on the mirror. It is clear. But what happens to us? We are looking into the mirror, or we are looking into the mind. Now, whatever experience happened goes and gets stuck over there. Our mind is not like a mirror. It is more like a photographic camera that is capturing so many images, nothing drops off. Everything goes and gets stuck, and it becomes like a mess. That is what memory can create, so much distortion. No, someone said something to me so many years back, and today I'm still suffering that. So this is the problem of memory, because our mind is not like a mirror. It has not been cleaned up. And Krishna uses the word dirt, not dust. Osho says this is very significant, and I mentioned how in the Sanskrit translation they said it's like feces. It's as dirty as that. And the word feces is used because it carries stench with it, because you have so many memories from so many places all mixed up. Somebody said something to you so many years ago, but people change, they change, you have changed. It may not be the same, but we carry the past like a burden on us. So somebody spat at Buddha, felt very bad, came after 24 hours and asked forgiveness. So Buddha says, who are you asking forgiveness of? The man who you spat at, he's gone 24 hours ago. Now that man is not the same. It's finished. So it's like there is this idea of the river flowing. The river is flowing. Now you step your foot into the river. Right now, when you step, even in that moment, it is not the same because it has already flown. That portion has already gone. Now new water has come there. So nothing remains the same. Everything is constantly changing, but our mind will store and gather everything. And that is why it begins to stink. And this word vasana, Osho in his Hindi commentary uses the word vasana, which is desire, which is also connected to smell, because vasanas are coming from that place of mooladhar. That is the reason why you are born. You are born because you have vasanas, which is desire. So, and vasana originally its meaning is connected with with smell. So we do not have fragrance, we stink. And what happens is that because all of us stay in that, we become used to it and we start thinking it's fragrance, to the extent that, in the explanation on this particular verse, they've said that it's like a fly which is sitting on cow dung. After some time, it likes that. So we become so used to all that memory and that garbage that we have carried, we think this is the right way. We start thinking it is good. We start thinking this is fragrant, but this is all conditioned mess that we have, and we need to clean up. So many of us are compelled by our memories. No, I mean, I still am. I can be compelled by my memories. And yeah, this is how it is. This is how Krishna explains from where he is standing. He's telling us this is how we are, and we have work to do to clean up all that mess. So, and why does desire exists? So all of this veil that is happening, why that metaphor of veil is to tell us that we have ignorance. It is because of ignorance there is smoke. It is because of ignorance there is dirt. It is because of ignorance that there is that membrane around the embryo. And I think I have that on the next slide. Correct. So perception is going to become foggy when we have so many desires. So what happens there, Osho explains in this commentary, is that desires will keep projecting themselves. We said, no, if desire is not fulfilled, it leads to krodha. If it is fulfilled, it leads to kama. So Osho has given this example of Andrew Carnegie. He says when he was dying, he was a multimillionaire. And people thought that he must be so fulfilled, he must be so happy and satisfied in his life. He's, created so much wealth. But even on his deathbed, he said, no, I'm not satisfied. I wanted to be a multi-billionaire. So desires just keep upping, keep increasing. And when that happens, and what happens because of this desire, the desires happen because of ignorance, and it keeps us projecting outwards. There is no time to look within. That knowledge, that light is within, and we never turn and look within ourselves. So, the desires keep obscuring us, keep blocking us from our own light. So Krishna is inviting us to live like a mirror and not like a camera. Okay, not like a camera that is capturing photographs, carrying one on top of the other. Krishna's message is cleanse the mirror, remove the smoke, discard the membrane of ignorance. You are not to become something. You are to remember who you are. That light is within you. The fire is within you. The gyan is within you. Okay, this I've covered already. Now, 40th and 41st verse. The senses, the mind, and our intelligence are considered the abode of all desires. True knowledge is concealed by our desires, hence all living beings become attached. Therefore, O Arjun, first you should bring the senses under your control so that you may kill with utter determination. So this word kill that Krishna has used here has also been misinterpreted, and we'll talk about that. You must kill with utter determination this sin, this desire which destroys knowledge and understanding. So desires are a problem. They are the block towards jnana and enlightenment. And what gets drawn towards this desire? Is it the senses? The senses, the mind, and our intelligence are considered the abode of all desires. Where do desires begin? How does a desire begin to happen? So, see, the senses are very innocent. Where do desires arise? It is in the mind. So mind is the place of vrittis. It is the place of raga, dvesha, likes and dislike. Now the mind likes this, energy starts flowing in the senses. The senses are simply windows. They're blank. They're simply windows. It's like a socket. But where does the energy come into the eye? It comes from the mind. Otherwise, it's simply a socket, no? I am looking at this computer, there's no like or dislike. I simply can look at it. But in my mind, I have a likeness for this kind of a screen, this brand or whatever. Then the mind starts sending all this interpretation, and the senses are drawn to it. The senses get attached to it. But it's not the senses, because senses are innocent. It's coming from the mind. This must be understood. It's important. So, yeah. So they say kill the senses, because the senses are the ones that are pulling you towards desire. So we've heard of all these ascetics and these tapasvis who will go and actually, they will poke their eyes. I think Surdas did that. He poked his eyes because these eyes are making me wander. They're taking me towards things that I should not be attracted to. I want to put my attention all towards God. So he pokes his eyes. They will cut their senses. But what will happen then? The energy still exists in the mind, correct? The like or dislike has not gone, only the sense has gone. So now that like and dislike that energy will keep going on in the mind, and you will become neurotic. It becomes perverted. That energy becomes perverted because now it doesn't even have a vent. It does not have a way to release itself. What it could have released itself through that vent, it could have found its fulfillment. That also does not happen. So there are two ways. They say it's like a seed. Okay, a seed can be crushed. You can simply take a seed and you can crush it. Okay, we will come to that in the next shloka. Or you can allow it to blossom, fulfill, and finish its course. Just allow it to fulfill its course. We'll come to the example of the seed. Sorry, I'm jumping. So so Krishna is not against desires, but what he's saying is that desires can block you from true knowledge. All right. So there is a prakriti within us, which is what is our mind, our mental makeup is. Now, when it is crushed, when that seed is crushed, it becomes vikriti. So you are killing your senses. The energy will keep running crazy inside you. It will create distortion. It will create perversion of energy. When it is transformed, Osho says it creates Sanskriti. And when yeah. So these are the two ways that he has spoken about it. Okay, so I've covered all of this, the ascetics aspect. So just remember that if the seed is contorted, it is distorted, then it is it will not find its transformation. When it is allowed to grow, it will find its transformation. From its seed, it will become a tree. So if the seed is no more a seed, if it is not a crushed seed, if senses are crushed, life will become contorted. Okay, just don't cut your senses. Don't kill the sense organs. Don't blame the sense organs. It is in the mind. It is the mind which is the place of desires, and they need to be addressed in that space. So how should we do it? We have to become a witness, be in the sakshi mode. Watch the same idea that we spoke of in Sattva. Be conscious of what is happening and choose appropriately. Direct the currents that are flowing inside you. Throughout, life is just currents that are flowing. Just direct them appropriately. And Osho has mentioned that, see, a person like Krishna will never speak of mutilating senses or killing desires. He's someone who is all about celebration. He dances, he plays the flute, he is so connected to music. He is not against enjoyment, he is not against celebration. Okay, so this must be understood. It is the senses are not the culprit. The problem is in the mind. So how do we manage the mind? Witnessing is a capacity that we need to apply. It is said that beyond the body and the senses, which are superior, strong, and subtle, and beyond the senses is the mind, beyond the mind is intelligence, and even beyond intelligence is the soul. So this is the way to manage. See, it's like this. this tree, I want to just mention, which tree this is? This is the tree in front of Dhyanalinga at Isha Ashram. It's a tamarind tree, and all these people who do Shivanga sadhana, and during Mahashiv, there's sadhana Sadhguru puts up. We go and tie those black threads there, and people who have passed away, there are processes that are done for it, and then those red cloths and all are tied there. Anyhow, okay. I just really like that tree. So this is how senses distract. Something attracts you and we get distracted. All right. So see, the leaf is look at it like a sense organ, okay? The most outward part. The leaf cannot exist without the branch, correct? But the branch can exist without the leaf, correct? The branch is dependent on the trunk. The trunk can exist without the branch, but the branch cannot exist without the trunk. The trunk is connected to the root. The root can exist without the trunk, but the trunk cannot exist without the root. Okay, so my hand is part of the body, but it is not the whole of the body, correct? So a part of this cannot be greater than the whole, no? My hand cannot exist without me, but I can still exist without my hand, okay? Correct. Just be with me, okay? So senses are like that. Just cutting the senses out will not cut the root. The root still exists. It will create it again. So just chopping off leaves, chopping off branches is not going to direct your energies. You have to address the root, and the root is the soul. Root is the intellect. We'll go back to it. We will go back and see how we can address these desires. So see, it's like this. Senses simply follow the mind. It's like this. Senses are following the mind. Now, if say my house is on fire, okay, and my friend is there on the road and I'm running because my house is on fire, and I don't even pay attention to the friend. I simply run. Later, my friend meets me and says, "Oh, I saw you running. I even said hi." So the voice was there, everything was there, but we didn't hear it. Why? Because the mind was feeding the senses. My house is on fire and I have to run. So the mind feeds the senses and the senses begin to focus. It is not the problem of the senses, it's the problem of the mind. It is the problem of our desires inside the mind. So whatever is dominating the mind, that is the direction in which the senses flow. On an ordinary day, if my house was not on fire and I was walking on the same street, my friend was there, and had he called out 2-3 times to me saying, hi Swati, I would have listened to him and responded, correct? Because I was not compelled by a certain desire which was playing in my mind. I have to save my house, correct? So what feeds the senses? The mind feeds the senses. And what feeds the mind? What controls the mind? It's backward. Just like the leaves, the branches, the trunk and the root. Then what controls the mind? The intellect controls the mind. There is buddhi behind. Manas. What is manas? Manas, mera man ye karta hai, mera man wo karta hai. I feel like eating this, I don't feel like eating this. Raga, dvesha, this is all manas, mind. Behind the mind is the intellect, which is discerning capacity, which has the ability and the intelligence to see this is for my greater good. This is beneficial. This is not beneficial. That which can apply viveka. So there is intellect which can control the mind, and behind this intellect is the soul, which is where the light or the force is flowing from, even to the intellect. Without this soul, the intellect cannot exist. The energy flows from the soul even to the intellect. By itself, it will not exist. So so how do we tend to use our mind? How do we tend to use our intelligence? So Osho, we try to use our intellect to justify. Subhe uthna hai jaldi. Mind says, so jao, blanket karo, iti subhe itni thand hai, what's the point of getting up? And we call our intellect, or we'll say intellect ki koi zarurat hi nahi, or intellect will come and say, it's okay, it's just, I still have the whole month. I can do it at that time. Today I can sleep. Tomorrow I can try. We will use the intellect also to justify the mind. We are not using it itself. So this creates problem. So Osho bolte hain, bring your intellect totally into that space of mind. And it's almost like a teacher comes into the classroom and all children begin to behave themselves. A teacher just comes in and the mind begins to behave himself. The mind will now not run its own vrittis, but really truly bring it instead of, just using justifications. So the senses are drawing their strength from the mind, and mind is based on likes and dislikes. And we ask our intellect, how can I justify my mind? This is how we want to normally use it. So we need to engage the intellect in the service of the mind, and we need to engage the soul in the service of the intellect. It's a backward journey. The intellect will become a servant of the mind, and then and know that the intellect is beyond the mind. So this is an analogy that is used in Kathopanishad also. So there are senses, which are the horses, which are running in all different directions. Where are they drawing their energy from? From mind, which is a place of vrittis, likes, dislikes. But if you bring the buddhi in, the driver, the sattva that we spoke of, bring the driver in, which discerns, which applies viveka and sees which direction do I need to go in. Is this a beneficial direction? Then buddhi will give orders to mind, and then the mind will give orders to the senses and will direct it. And behind all of that is the witness, consciousness, that Atman, which is simply watching everything. So that is the capacity of Sakshi. The light of this consciousness falls into Buddhi, and that is called reflected consciousness. So most of us are in awareness. We may still be identified with Buddhi, but that is reflected consciousness. It is still an awareness practice that we are doing while we are established in Buddhi. Does that make sense? So this is how we need to work to manage our desires, to thin the veils that cover us from Gyan, that are obscuring the Gyan. The Gyan exists inside you. If you will simply manage your desires like that, apply your buddhi, be a witness. And the most beautiful aspect of this is that if you simply become conscious, if you simply become aware, many of these desires, they will dissolve, or many times the senses will automatically get redirected. So it is never about repression, it is about redirecting the senses. It's like the horses and the reins. So I like how Osho explains this. He says that we call the mind only when we are we call the intellect only when we are confused, when it's an emergency situation. Then we call the intellect, up to, it's like when we are baffled by situations. My mother is on deathbed. There is nothing that I can do. Normally, okay, I'm sorry. Let me go back. So when mind is confused, you call the intellect, we apply the intellect, and we make certain decisions. As you get established in intellect, the intellect becomes very strong, isn't it? The intellect now identifies and knows, I can do it, I'm aware, I know. And it becomes very identified with I know. So an ahamkar can grow there, isn't it? People you become established in your intellect, ahamkar can grow. Then how to bring Atman, how to go back, how to go backwards, how to bring consciousness. That consciousness is the same as the aspect of God. This happens only when intellect gets baffled. We do not invite the soul or pure consciousness till intellect gets baffled. Now, my mother is on the deathbed. I don't know what to do. Intellect is baffled. It has dropped itself. It is tired. Only then we call God. So the suggestion here is don't wait for that. When all your energy is gone, when Draupadi is left with no resort, then she will call God. Call him when the intellect is also active. Invite him in your life. Be in that mode to do it to invite God when you are experiencing success, not when you have fallen into failure. So that is the invitation of this, the deepest aspect. That consciousness aspect or that Atman aspect is the root of the tree. Invite that when you're experiencing success. Then the intellect will also not gather ego. Otherwise, the intellect has every chance to become very egotistical. I know, I can do everything. I don't, we've seen this around us, isn't it? So, okay. So this is the 43rd verse, and I have done something here. Wait, let me fix this. Okay. Sorry, give me a moment. That thing is not clear. Okay. Share. Okay, you got it? Can you see this from current slide? All right, so the 43rd verse is, thus know your true self by going beyond your intelligence. So up to intelligence, you understood. Senses, to police the senses, bring the mind. To police the mind, bring intellect. To police the intellect, which can gather ego, bring God himself, bring Atman itself. So thus know your true self by going beyond your intelligence, which is the same as intellect. O Arjun, subjugate the mind through your intelligence. Understanding your own energy, kill desire, the unconquerable enemy. So kill desire does not mean go and kill your senses. It means learn to redirect the desires, learn to give them the right direction. And through practices, of course, we also dissolve the seeds of desires, which we studied in Yoga Sutras. Yeah, that I already told you, that mind lacks discernment. That is the capacity of intellect. So don't wait for intellect to get exhausted. Do it when you are experiencing success. That was a very good, important guidance. Bring in this aspect of consciousness, of God, of self, of Atman, even when you're experiencing success. So living in gratitude, keep that last aspect also present when the intellect is doing, when Viveka is there. So Viveka and surrender, we spoke of this last time, that surrender only happens when Viveka has reached at its peak. So keep that surrender. This last aspect is really the surrender aspect. Only if you have reached up till here, you can come into surrender. Otherwise, surrender cannot happen. So fatalistic people cannot surrender. They can only the person who has become established in intellect is also capable of surrendering. He can come into this last aspect of Atman, consciousness. This aspect is surrender. Because the surrender aspect, the moment it becomes active, ego disappears, ego dissolves. The people who are fatalistic, they are not even at the level of mind. They are simply at the level of senses. Or they're simply, let's say, at the level of mind. They are not even at the level of buddhi. That is my understanding. Okay. Have I made sense? I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I don't know if I'm tying everything together or not.
So just a quick question, unrelated, but the visual of the Bhagavad Gita, the symbolism in that you have the senses, the chariot is the body, and then the Krishna is shown as the intellect, wherein basically if you operate with Krishna intellect, holding back your senses or holding using your mind, the mind is in the hand of the intellect and it's controlling the senses, then victory is assured, right? So how can you just correlate that with the visual imagery you use from the Katha Upanishad?
Yeah, so Krishna embodies both aspects for me, Vinay, here, because Krishna is also self-realized. He's without ahamkar. That is why it is Krishna and not anybody else. This is for ordinary human beings like us who are not yet in the realized states. But Krishna has connected both those aspects, the buddhi as well as atma, both is there, no? Because he doesn't have ahamkar there. So he is holding. Because he's in a material form, that is why manas, buddhi exist inside him, because he has a body. Otherwise, he'd simply be pure consciousness. So that's how I see it. This is for all of us that know that this aspect also exists with inside behind you. So that is just an imagery, but he has both those aspects already. I see it like that. Yes. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay, I will follow up with some write-ups and some sharings on group chat to clarify, reinforce if I have made mistakes or if I not been clear. Anything that anybody wants to share? No? We are good. We've come to the end of Karma Yoga. Anything that I have missed which I should have shared? So true surrender happens in success. When everything is going well, when the intellect is winning, when happiness is flowing, then the one who remembers God has truly surrendered. So senses are following us like a shadow. If you think you are the doer, you are at the mercy of your senses. If you become the witness, you go beyond the dominance of the senses. Otherwise, the senses will rule you. The horses will take you and you will simply keep following the horses wherever they're going. So there is one very nice idea which I missed mentioning. Osho mentions this. He says, see, we misunderstand. Sometimes we want to destroy violently whatever causes suffering to us. So all these people who are like poking their eyes because my senses are taking me towards desires. So he says, if you were to do this to somebody else and poke their eyes, you'd be taken in a court of law. But you do it to yourself. What sense is there? You cannot be taken to a court of law. See, this is the idea of where, in Buddhism, they speak of compassion to the self, because the body is also the other. Others' body is other, others' bodies is others, but even my body is other to me, no? Because I am not my body. I am that which is inside. Again, I'm speaking from a theoretical perspective. I don't have the experience of I'm not the body. I'm still identified with the body, but your body is the other. If you will not do this to another person, why will you do it to your own body? So the funny and the perverse part is that if I destroy my own eyes, if an ascetic destroys his own eyes, people praise him. If you go destroy somebody else's eyes, they'll be put behind bars. I thought that was such a solid point. And one faces a tribunal, one faces is getting appreciation for it and accolades for it. So when Prakriti is crushed, it becomes deformed, distorted, and perverted. If Prakriti is transformed, it becomes sublimated. That's when it becomes Sanskriti. So this whole idea of Rajas, Tamas, Sattva is to transform Prakriti. We spoke of this in class we said how we are here to transform Prakriti. It is possible by constantly redirecting, not repressing. Okay, that's it. I have nothing more to say. If anybody else has anything to share, any comments, any thoughts, anything from chapter 3, we'll start on chapter 4. But next Sunday, I may not be able to do the class. I'll let you know. My kids are here, and then, we can take it up after that. Anything else? No? All good? Yes, Manish?
Yes, all good.
Okay. ठीक है. Then we just take the closing mantra. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Om Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you. Good night.